Hi all, my name is Lee and welcome back to the channel. So today we've got another very simple beginner project. I'm going to make a die holder, so let's take a closer look. So the first question is, what is a die holder or a die stocks? It's actually just the handle to put leverage on the die for when you're cutting threads. But these things are quite hard to use on the lathe. They're hard to keep straight, so I'm just not a fan of it. So I'm going to make a really simple die holder just to get this job done a lot easier. Now again, there's lots of other YouTube videos with magnificent looking die holders. This is purely a beginner project, so I'm keeping things really simple. So what the main components we're going to need, we need something to actually hold the die. For that I'm just using a 2-inch piece of aluminium. I also just have an old scrap brass rod that I'm going to use for the back of it. And finally I may just put in some handles on the side of this just to give more leverage for the larger threads. So by hand you should be able to thread probably up to an M6 just by having some knurling on this, and when you put the die in there and you grab hold of it you can just twist it manually. But for the slightly bigger threads you probably need a little more leverage, so for that I've got a couple of really cheap old steel offcut rods and I might put some threads on them and put them in the sides just for a little more leverage. So the way it actually works is obviously you have your 25.5mm hole cut out on the front there that the die will fit in. I also need to put a grub screw in the top to hold the die in place. And finally this brass rod, I will just actually put this into the Jacob's chuck on the lathe, and that just freely slides in and out of a hole in the end. And I'll cut this down to about 13mm. The reason I picked 13mm is it's a common large size for a lot of Jacob's chucks. So what you'll find is a lot of Jacob's chucks come in sizes like 1 to 10mm or 1 to 13 or 1 to 16mm. Now on my lathe I actually have a 1 to 16mm capable Jacob's chuck, but there are a lot out there that only go up to 13mm. So I thought I'd just use that as a number. Conveniently it's also the largest drill I have, so I should just be able to drill the hole rather than boring it. However, I will need to do a boring operation to get this 25.5mm hole in the face of the aluminium to put the actual die in. So to start, I think I will just start on the piece of aluminium. So the jobs I need to do is I need to clean this up. I need to put some knurling on it. Then I need to drill a hole all the way through 13mm. And then on one end, I'll just cut a recess of 25.5mm. So the important dimension on this, because nothing's that critical, but on this, it's having a tight, snug fit for the die in there. And most dies are imperial 1-inch dies. So 25.5mm, 1 inch. Other than that, everything else is pretty simple to do. You don't need exact measurements. For example, when I drill the 13mm hole, drills have a tendency for being oversized when you drill them, but if I cut this down I can just cut down the brass rod until it fits nice and smoothly but snugly, but still slides in and out. So that's the plan for that. Let's get on the lathe and we'll start cutting this aluminium. So I've already taken the aluminium down just to clean it up, so it's down to 50mm. But the first job is I just need to drill all the way through this. I'm going to go in 2 stages, so I'll use a smaller drill. This is a 9mm, and then I'll move up to the 13mm to put the final hole in there. So let's do that now. So the die is about 10mm thick, so I need to go in about 10mm. So I'll touch off on the face of this aluminium and then I'll reset the drow, so I've got the counter on there. And of course the actual hole I need to make needs to be 25.5 millimeters, 1 inch. So let's do that. Almost exactly the same as the Dro. So let's finish off to 25.5. So I'm just going to put a slight knurl on the outside of this. I don't have that much room to play with because the knurling tool will get in the way of the chuck jaws, but I can put a bit on there just to provide some grip for when you're creating the die. So let's do that now. So the next job is just to take down this brass bar to 13 millimeters so it just fits in the hole. I want it nice and tight but still be able to move in and out. So I've got to be quite precise with this. I'll keep double checking as I take thin passes near the end. So the next step is to put the screw in to hold the die in place once it's inside. So I'm just going to put an M6 thread in there. M6 seems about big enough. And I've also rounded off the end of this nut just so it fits in the hole, and that should be able to screw that down to stop it spinning round. So let's put a 5 millimeter hole in it to make an M6 thread. So I thought I'll try out this power tap instead using the drill rather than doing it manually. Hopefully this will work and it won't mess it up. Well, that seemed to work really well. Very easy. Let's just double check it now. So I've just spun this round. I am actually going to put some holes for the handle on there and put some threads in there. I'll use the same M6 thread. And then the two steel pieces I have, I'll just put a thread on the end of those using this tool in the lathe. So this piece pretty much finished now. So we've got the screw in the top to hold the die in. And I've just put some threads on either side to put some handles in. So the final job is just to make those handles on the lathe and use this with my M6 die to cut the threads on the handles. So let's put it in and just check it all works. That works perfectly. Looks really good. It's nice and solid. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. Let's get on the lathe and finish these handles. Put my handle in there. It's around 8 millimeters at the moment. I need to take this down to 6 millimeters. But for an M6 thread, you actually want to take this down slightly under. So I should probably go about 5.8 millimeters. And then I can put the die on there to put the M6 thread on. So let's do that. Okay, so I've put my tool on there. Now I can see if it works. So we should be able to line up with this, slide it forwards and then twist it in. So here's the final completed piece. Very simple job. Anyone can do. All you need, as you've seen, is just a lathe and a hand drill. If you wanted to be more accurate with the holes on the side, you could always drill all the way through by mounting this piece in the chuck of the lathe. As you saw, I didn't bother. I just drilled into it. I'm not bothered about them being 100% straight. But there are other things you can do if you really want to make it accurate for the practice. For me, it wasn't necessarily necessary. This is a working tool for me. As you've seen, I've already used it successfully to make the threads on the end of the handles, and it worked perfectly. It was much easier than using the other handle that I had. So let's just put it together and see how it looks. So thanks for watching. I hope you agree. It's a really good, simple project and it really helps a lot. This is so much better than the normal handles you get within a tap and die kit. So I'll be using this very often. I might make a second one as well, just so I've always got one to hand. And it is such a simple project. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm still waiting for my milling machine. I'm hoping it's going to come in stock any day now. And as soon as it arrives, I'll be sure to post a video of first spin, first cut, and trying to set the machine up. Obviously, I'm a beginner. I have never used a milling machine before. So you'll be learning with me as I make all the mistakes and maybe you don't have to make them. So thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Cheers.